In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. This is the day that the Lord has made. It's a blessing that we gather tonight. Of course, we took a little bit of a pause from our normal Paraclesi services to honor Saint Spyridon. He's not a small saint. Well, I mean, he was small in stature, but he's not a small saint in the annals of our church. He's called Thavmaturgo. He's called Wonder Worker. That's this, and during that period of time, there weren't that many. Now we hear a lot more of individuals who are called Wonder Worker because, to be honest, in this day and age, we hear more about individuals who are, wonder-working saints. Saint Nectarius, the wonder worker. We have Saint John Maximovich, the wonder worker. We have there's a few of them that are popping up more often now because it's very difficult, unfortunately, for us. This is now an opinion, not necessarily the opinion of the church, but I really believe this. It's very difficult for us always. When we go through our day, we say, this is great, this is good, oh, I love this, that we're so prone to superlatives that we don't recognize the gifts of God always in people. So we have to be bombarded by them through miracles, right? Through the miraculous, the unexplained. And when we have those individuals that have performed such miracles, we just naturally call them wonder workers. It's just kind of what we do. And it's not wrong to do that because they are working wonders. But when we go back and realize how abundant the miracles that the early centuries wonder workers were doing, it's not quite the same. It's not always quite the same. The Holy Spirit's working, but I mean, incredible things that were taking place during those periods of time. I'm not saying that the Holy Spirit's working less now than it was then. No. What I am saying is that the idea of what it means to be a wonder worker. Now we say everyone's great, but in the church there's only this many people called great, and so we just need to hold off on the superlatives sometimes. But Saint Spyridon is a very unique saint in the fact that he was a married bishop, which was not a very popular thing during that period of time. Now he was not elevated to the degree of episcopacy until his wife had passed away, but you didn't see that a lot. Most of the bishops during those days were coming out of the ranks of the monastics. They were coming out of the monasteries. They were already kind of living this kind of celibate and holy and prayerful life. He was a farmer. He had a family. He had a daughter named Irene, right? Like these are, we know things about his family. We know things about his life. He didn't really know how to read. At the time, every bishop was given this. Every bishop was given a gospel. Every bishop was given an omophorion. You see it with Jesus enthroned. You see when he's enthroned, and that cloth that's kind of wrapped around him, that's called an omophorion. You see it here, right? And when the bishop comes, you see it. So these are things that are, as a priest, I'm not given this. This is not mine, right? But in the day, because the bishop was, their job was to preach the gospel. It wasn't the priest's right to preach. In order to hear a preacher, you had to go where the bishop was. That was just the cause. The priest was just there to assist the bishop in the serving of the service, and the deacon was to assist everybody else, right? So, it was just that was the role. But you can see in every icon of a bishop, there's almost always a gospel book given to them, and an omophorion that's bestowed upon them. But he couldn't read. He couldn't read. So the book itself was not something that was going to be opened and read from. And yet he would open and read from it, even though he didn't need to worry about it because he had the entire Gospels memorized, so it didn't matter. And this is the kind of thing that we're talking about when we talk about St. Spyridon. We're talking about a man that was so invested in the grace of God that literally it dripped from him. And so when we celebrate the Vespers, we'll say more about him tomorrow, but when we celebrate the Vespers and we see, very rarely, by the way, when we celebrate a Vesper service, most of the time we're listening to Genesis, Exodus, sometimes we're in Numbers, sometimes we're, floating around some of the prophecies of Isaiah or Ezekiel or things like this. Most of the time when we're in Vespers, this is where we're reading from. But when we're celebrating a hierarch in the church, almost always you hear 3 readings from the Wisdom of Solomon or from the Proverbs of Solomon. We're getting these readings. Why? Because it is the most clear attribute of a hierarch when they are taking the wisdom of God and imparting it to us. And when you hear about the wisdom of God in the Old Testament, you are not hearing about a concept. When Solomon writes about wisdom, he is not writing about an abstract concept. He personifies wisdom in his writings. Wisdom has built her house, right? He gives it a personhood and makes it not just an attribute that can be given to God, but almost a life within itself. Now, obviously, we do not worship wisdom except in the person of Jesus Christ. He is wisdom. But we recognize that wisdom is a gift. It's a virtue that we should attain to, and it is not something that is it's not always given to the young. It's not. We heard that this evening. Wisdom is gray hair. Everyone makes fun of me for my gray hair. I don't care because I may not have wisdom, but I'm getting closer, right? That's what that's just the way it is. And so that I welcome it. I welcome it because if I can't have wisdom, I might as well look like I have it, right? But St. Spyridon, you can see how he is adorned. He is adorned with white hair. Yeah, okay, fine. He couldn't read. And he had a farmer's mentality. But he is responsible for imparting the wisdom of God to the 317 other bishops that were at the First Ecumenical Council. So, it's not okay. It's not such a bad thing to be a farmer and to just focus on God. It's not such a bad thing. And he did it so beautifully. So beautifully, in fact, that whenever, St. Nicholas, he's a wonder worker. He has not been given the grace, the same exact grace that St. Spyridon has. St. Spyridon was so blessed in his life that when he passed away, his body did not decay. His body remained incorrupt. You can still see it on the island of Corfu. Now, that's not where he was bishop. He was bishop in the area of Trimithus, which is in a different area. But he was, through wars and different things like this, his relics were kind of moved all over the place, along with Saint Theodora, the empress. They were kind of like moved all over the place. and then eventually found their way to Corfu. And that's where they are now, where you can go see them. But you will see a full body when you go there. Saint Savas is another one. He's completely incorrupt. Saint Gerasimos of Kefalonia, he's another one. Saint Dionysius, we're celebrating him next Tuesday. And so we can't, normally when we give relics, to, like not tomorrow for the Divine Liturgy of St. Spyridon, but on Friday, when we have relics of a saint, we have sometimes a little piece of a bone or something, whatever. And that we put that out for veneration. It's encased in glass, so you're not always touching the actual relic. Sometimes you are, depends. But for St. Spyridon, how do you have relics of St. Spyridon? You can't, because he's incorrupt. God did not want his relics to be spread. And so what happens is that he still, to this day, appears to people like St. Dionysius of Zakynthos. And over the course of time, again, I can't explain how this happens, but it happens. The shoes, the slippers that they put on him in his casket start to wear out. And so when they start to wear out, the monks cut little swatches of those slippers and they pass them out. Every once in a while, you can see sometimes when they have enough of the slippers to pass out, every once in a while you will see a full set of slippers intact, which was what my experience was when I went to Clarksburg. There's 2 parishes in our metropolis named for St. Spyridon. One in Monessen, and they have, I think, 1 full slipper, but I don't think they have a pair. But in Clarksburg, they have a full set of slippers that he wore in his casket. And that was really amazing whenever I went down to Clarksburg. So if you have the opportunity to go down to Clarksburg or to Monessen for their feast day, I'm pretty sure Monessen has 1 full slipper, but Clarksburg has a set. I'll never forget it. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And the bishop always goes back and forth. I think he goes one time for Vespers, the other time for liturgy, and then he'll flip-flop the next year so he can, visit them. But this is what we have here. It's just a little piece of the slipper that he wore, which we are blessed to have, thank God. So, and we're going to finish the Vespers, and you'll have the opportunity to come and venerate whenever that is over. And then, of course, Divine Liturgy tomorrow morning after following Orthros. Okay? Please rise, we will finish.